I was either going to die, I was going to hurt somebody else, I was going to spend my life in prison, and I had been there before. I knew I didn't want to go back there.
Be Inspired Podcast. Real stories from real people. Sharing stories of love and loss, struggles and perseverance, laughter and tears, and overcoming adversity.
From the depths of addiction to the successes of recovery and being able to help those achieve the same. We'll cover it all in today's edition of Be Inspired. Hi, I'm Bert Barron.
And I'm Lisa Anderson.
And we welcome you to Be Inspired. Lisa, there's so many different stories of addiction and recovery. No two are the same. They do have some common threads. And our guest that we're going to meet today is going to share his own unique story. And it's a powerful story in how he's helping others defeat the same demons and overcome the same obstacles that he faced in his life.
Yeah, that's a difficult path to walk, and unfortunately these days it's all too common. So happy to get the word out about
Very
this.
true. Very true. It is great to welcome Chris Spallina with us live on the Be Inspired set today. Chris, welcome. Great to have you here today. And as I mentioned in the introduction here, no two stories are the same, but there's everyone sort of follows the same path of addiction. What led you? Share your story, if you would, what brought you to the depths of addiction.
Sure, I'd love to. So you said something that I think is interesting, and I'll touch on that a little bit, where we both, we all follow the same paths. I think that's true to some point, but I think it's very different as well, right? So I grew up in New Jersey, upper middle class family. My mom and dad were great. My brother was great. I never really wanted for anything, pretty abnormal childhood in that sense. I went to Catholic school my whole life, played sports, and got to high school. Sports were not my thing anymore, and I started hanging out with some people that were not athletic so much and just looking to have fun, or were like the cool kids per se. And that's when I first got introduced to drugs. I started with marijuana, and it wasn't a problem for me at the time. It just seemed like everybody was doing it. There was no harm coming to me or challenges in my life from it, and I just kind of fell into that. I started going to a lot of concerts and listening to music from the 60s, that kind of countercultural thing. And I graduated high school. By the time I graduated high school, if anybody remembers, in the late 90s, early 2000s, ecstasy was the big rage. Mm-hmm. Also, we didn't know much about it. It wasn't introduced to us in the DARE program when we were kids, so it just seemed like a pill that the doctor would give you that we would take. So we didn't really know, what was the downfall of it. We just knew that we were going to go have fun and see colors and all the glamour that you see on TV. So when I graduated high school, I went to I got accepted to Monmouth University. And my first week of Monmouth University was the day that 9/11 happened. So I remember that I was surfing at Sandy Hook, saw it happen, went to school, and school was canceled. And after a while, it kind of just all the things that were happening in the world just kind of, I didn't feel like a purpose or a direction. I didn't know what the future was going to hold for me. I had considered enlisting in the military at the time. I didn't do that. And also at that time, in around 2001, 2002, is where I think that the basis of this whole opiate epidemic that we're dealing with started. It was a time when we went into Afghanistan. It was the time where OxyContin and all those things were super prevalent and super cheap. And the same thing, we were not really educated on it as much as I feel like we could have been, of the dangers of it. It was, this is something that a doctor prescribed. It can't be that bad for us. So throughout college, I did the normal partying, but in addition to that, did all these painkillers and pills, and traveled around going to concerts that, what I thought was having a good time. And the first time I got arrested was while I was in college, and it was in West Long Branch. I got pulled over. I had some of those pills on me. I got a little bit of a slap on the wrist, but I did go on probation, and I was in the system per se, and started exploring that maybe I had a problem at this point, something that I had to look at. I graduated Monmouth University in 2005, and I went to my first rehabilitation center about 6 weeks after that in Florida. I had stopped using the pills because they got too expensive and just started using street heroin, which was a natural progression for a lot of people like myself. I went to my first treatment center. And the treatment center, the model of treatment back then is not as variable as it is now. It was basically you go to a detox and you get out of a detox and you go to a treatment center. That's my parents paid $30,000 or $40,000 for that they didn't have. And a van took me around to various AA and AA meetings in Miami in the summer when we could still smoke cigarettes in church basements. So not a very pleasant experience. Still being a young kid that I had inklings that maybe I had a problem, but wasn't willing to accept that I was like full-blown addict at the time. So it did not settle in for me. I came home and started using right away. My parents were devastated about it. I still thought that I had a handle on it. I didn't think it was going to be something that was going to drag me to the depths of hell. And the other piece for me was I had this idea. I feel like we're kind of conditioned to believe we go to college, we get a good job, and we get a family, all of that, and move forward. Well, in 2007 or so, when the economic recession happened, the best job that I got with a 4-year degree was to work at Enterprise Rent-A-Car. So I didn't get that sense of achievement from graduating college that I thought. I kind of felt like I had no purpose, and that kind of led to some mental health challenges for me. Eventually, I got arrested a few more times, and my dad gave me the option, hey, if this isn't for you, you can come to work in Manhattan. I became a union carpenter, which was a great job. I made decent money. I enjoyed doing what I was doing, but traveling to and from New York City, the construction industry is notoriously rampant with drug and alcohol use. So over the years, my progression just kept getting worse and worse. And came in 2011, I got arrested in upstate New York. And the New Jersey criminal justice system is a little more lax than New York State is, at least upstate New York. So when I got arrested there for a possession charge, they told me I was going to prison, not drug court, not probation, any of that. So I did. I went to Elmira, which is a maximum penitentiary and maximum security penitentiary. And luckily in New York, they offer a diversionary program that's called shock incarceration, which sounds super intimidating, and it is. But when I got there, I had the choice of either doing 3 years in prison or 6 months in this program. So this program is modeled after a military boot camp, but instead of learning how to fight and shoot guns and stuff, there was drug treatment mixed in, which after we started that program, there were 60 of us, and when we finished, there was only 23 that finished. So it was pretty intense. But what I learned there was a couple of things. The organization and structure and discipline of it was something that I had none of, and I felt that it was helping me as a person and in my recovery. And the main piece was the physical fitness piece. We were waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning every day, running, doing push-ups, getting screamed at by the drill instructors. And after a few months, I actually kind of started liking it. I started feeling better, started feeling more optimistic about what a sober lifestyle could be for me. When I left that prison, I stayed sober for almost a year on just physical fitness. I was running in 5Ks and all these obstacle races and going to the gym. I got off parole, and what was happening was I was doing those things that were helping me stay healthy, but I was still hanging out with some of the same people. So slowly I started going back to going to bars after the race, and it led me back to my main drug of choice, which was opiates. And then what happened after that, that was around 2014 or 2015, something new started happening to me. I started experiencing overdoses, because this is when fentanyl became, the main ingredient in what we thought was street heroin. So between 2015 and 2018, I had 5 or 6 more criminal charges against me and 3 overdoses, near fatal overdoses each time. Luckily, the police came and I was resuscitated each time. The last time that I used any sort of mind-altering substance was May 24th of 2018. I had a very near fatal overdose. I had to get Narcan and CPR. I woke up and the cop was standing over me, and I remember this. When this happens, you're kind of like in a little bit of a fog from everything that's happening, but I do remember this woman police officer that I knew from when I was younger pointing out that there was 2 children playing basketball about 100 yards away from my car. She's like, you could have killed those 2 kids and spent the rest of your life in prison. That's what stuck with me. So I knew at this point it was, my last chance. I was either going to die, I was going to hurt somebody else, I was going to spend my life in prison, and I had been there before. I knew I didn't want to go back there. So I went to Monmouth County Jail. I was there for a couple of months. Luckily, luckily the judge kind of saw my struggles and was merciful, saw that I needed help, and made a deal with my attorney that if my family, my girlfriend, and my attorney could find a treatment center that would accept me directly from jail, that he would release me. And that's what happened. So after a few months, I left Monmouth County Jail in the sheriff's van in handcuffs, went to a treatment center, and I sat down on this clinician's couch, young woman. I remember sitting on a couch. It was like the most comfortable couch ever. Maybe it was just the change of scenery, or maybe it was because I finally just kind of surrendered. So I told her everything that had worked for me. The 12-step piece was going to be part of it. Physical fitness was going to be part of it, but something was still lacking for me. And she had a similar experience to mine where just going to AA or NA meetings wasn't enough for her. She was a person in recovery too. So she shared with me that she had found meditation and yoga to be something that was healing for her. At first I kind of laughed. I was like, yeah, yoga, right? I'm going to put on Lululemon pants and go to yoga. But I tried it, right? And instantly, within a few days of sitting for meditation in the morning and doing yoga every day, I felt some of those like emotional challenge that I was having, because what was happening was I was getting sober for short periods of time, and then all these feelings of guilt, shame, and embarrassment would come up, and I would just use again so I didn't have to feel those things. The meditation and yoga really, really helped me with that.
Chris, listening to your story, I have to say the thing that keeps going through my mind is the great need for follow-up care. In all the times that you went to rehab and used again, you have to. It's so critical for follow-up care, because you come home and the same group of people are, your friends are there, the same feelings are there, the same triggers are there. And that is counterproductive to all the work that you did in the rehab center. So with what you're talking about, and the Phoenix and the yoga and meditation, how critical, and what would you tell someone getting out of rehab or trying to get help about the follow-up?
Sure, yeah, and I think that's a good point. So like what I had mentioned, most of the treatment centers that I'd gone to were out of state. This one happened to be in New Jersey. So what that did allow me to do is kind of seek the resources that were local to me, and find the people that I would still be able to stay in touch with when I left that treatment center.
Right.
The main piece for me was being 30-something years old. I didn't know where to meet sober people except for going to these recovery meetings that I'd kind of had an aversion to from previous experiences. So while I was in that treatment center, someone came in and told me about the Phoenix, this is where I work now, and said, hey, what are you going to do when you leave here? Who are you going to hang out with? What are you going to do?
Yeah.
She said, we have a free, sober, active community. You can come and do yoga and ride mountain bikes and go climbing and do CrossFit, and it's all free. All you have to do is have 48 hours of sobriety. So that's what it was for me. The missing piece of my puzzle was finding community connection.
You have to have that alternate life, because the old life is not an option.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's why it's so important.
Yep, and I think the fact, Chris, that you remember the exact date of the last time you used, and I think that's important because it really paints a picture of what the struggle is, and it's really a daily fight for those who are in recovery. It is something that you fight from the second you wake up till the second you go to sleep every night. And anyone who deals with addiction and is in recovery, it's the fight of your life every single day, right?
Agreed, very much so agree. And yeah, and like I know for me, besides my line of work and helping others, I have to do something for my recovery every day.
Sure, yeah.
So that's, meditation, CrossFit, prayer, whatever it is, journaling, and seeing new people coming in that I can share my story with, like I am here today, and inspiring some kind of hope, and just letting them know the help is there. There's no judgment, and just ask for help. We're here for you. There's never not hope. As long as you're breathing, there's hope.
I have to go back a minute to your childhood. Your brother, did he have substance use issues?
So I think that brings up a really good point. So my brother and I,
Yeah,
brother and I have had a identical upbringing.
Right.
Right. My brother ended up being a sergeant in the police department of a narcotics bureau. Never used a drug in his life.
Do you think it's genetic to some point, or because some people say, it's got to be in the genes, or is it that it's so critical to try to pinpoint what makes one brother choose one path and another
Yeah.
succumb to that?
I don't know. Me personally, there could be a genetic thing to it. It could be something that we subconsciously
Yeah.
inherited from something we read or saw, or maybe we had a slightly different experience somewhere, or maybe we just see things different. We still see things differently to this day. So is there science behind it? That I don't know, but I do think it's a very curious question as to why one goes one direction and one goes the other polar opposite.
And in society as well. You know, people tend to look down on those who choose, well, they chose this life. No, they didn't choose this life. They're experiencing this life, but there's just I don't know, there's that critical, pivotal moment that, you know, why one young kid takes, you know, ecstasy or does heroin and another doesn't choose. It just always baffled me as to why.
It doesn't really make sense. I can remember when we were younger and we had the DARE program.
Yeah.
And it worked. You know, it was great to have an education. I can remember the police officer coming in with this display case of drugs and explaining, like, these are the bad things. They try to be really truthful and say, these are the physiological effects. This is what you're going to experience from this. And then they told you the bad things. But I can remember being like, oh, LSD, I'm going to see colors and, you know, music is going to be cooler to me. I was like, I want to try that. Whereas, like, someone like my brother was like, wow, I'd never want to go near any of that.
Right.
There's no rhyme or reason for it for me.
Right, exactly.
You know, I think it's just something we need to be aware of.
Well, it's so critical that the care, so much more is out there than years ago when you were experiencing your overdoses and the rehabs themselves.
Talk about the Phoenix, if you would, Chris, and what their approach is to helping people in recovery.
Sure. So Phoenix is a nationwide nonprofit organization. Our mission is to build sober, active community that fuels resilience and harnesses the transformational power of connection. So together we rise, recover, and live. And to kind of translate that, anywhere in the country, we have 22 states where we have physical chapters like we do here in New Jersey. You can go and do CrossFit, climbing, hiking, biking, meditation, yoga, whatever we can think of that's fun, safe, and healthy, and it's free. The only requirement is 48 hours of continuous sobriety. So whether that means you are a person in recovery from a substance use disorder or a mental health challenge, eating disorder, PTSD, a supporter of someone who is, or you just simply want to live a sober lifestyle, our classes are for you. So wherever you go in the country, we also have a live streaming schedule, 70 plus classes a week, and we're just growing. We have 65,000 members to date, and our goal is by 2025 to reach 1 million people with this. And one of the most important things, I think, Bert, you said something, that recovery is not one size fits all, right? So the Phoenix and myself, we believe that there's multiple pathways. So whatever it is that brought someone to us, or whatever it is that somebody is doing to stay safe and well, we want them to continue doing it and just come have some fun and find connection with us.
Yeah, it's come a long way, and it is so great to hear that there is something beyond, you know, how am I going to live my life sober? That's a question that I'm sure, you know, it's like getting out of prison. Someone who's been serving, say, 20 years, what do I do now? I'm not in prison, I'm not equipped, you know, with anything to handle this. Do you help with getting employment and such?
So we specifically don't, but we do work with a lot of our community partners that
Okay.
do. So as an instructor or as a volunteer for the Phoenix, we are aware of all the resources that are available. We make it known. And before our classes, we mention our community standards, and one of them is that we're here to help. So if you need any sort of resources, let us know and we'll connect you.
It's so important too, to pick up and
Yeah.
where am I going to work, you know, and start to live again.
And the approach has really come a long way, Chris, over the last several decades. There was a time where someone who was wrestling with addiction, you were either treated as a criminal or they just sort of tucked you in a corner to let you dry out, and the relapse rate had to be kind of off the charts. Now it's like they want you out in public. They want you socializing with people who are going through the same issues, and just kind of bringing the thing to a discussion and getting it out in the daylight where people can see it and contribute and realize it's a real problem that happens to people that aren't necessarily bad people. And it's just a matter of everybody working together to get that second chance and kind of get their life going in a positive direction again. So if someone's interested in finding out more about the Phoenix and the mission, how do they find that out?
Sure. The best way if you're in New Jersey, you can find us on Facebook at the Phoenix, New Jersey, or whatever state or city that you're in. Just type it in, the Phoenix, New York City, New York, Phoenix, Philadelphia. And our website is www.thephoenix.org.
All right, terrific. Chris Spallina, thanks so much for being here. Continued recovery. Stay strong. Stay brave, my friend. And it was great to have you here today to share your story with us, okay?
Thanks, Bert.
All right.
Thanks, Lisa.
I'm Bert Barron.
And I'm Lisa Anderson.
And you've been watching Be Inspired.
Hi, my name is Chris. I am a person in sustained recovery from substance use disorder. I came here today to be inspired so that I could try and inspire somebody to recognize that there's hope. There's always hope. If we're still breathing, there's hope. So if you are someone that is struggling with a substance use disorder or mental health challenge, please reach out, get connected. There are so many great nonprofits and treatment centers in the area and resources, and people want to help. And if you're somebody that has a son, daughter, or a friend that is struggling, please just know that there is people like me that can come out of this. As long as we are here and as long as we can not experience the stigma and judgment, we can recover.
Our family went from being a complete solid family to being completely flipped upside down. Her brother was diagnosed with kidney disease. My sister, shortly after, was diagnosed with cancer. And I remember saying, I don't want to live anymore. Why me? Why us? I drove, and next thing I know, I'm upside down. And that I now had a responsibility to myself to make this world a better place, because I have to keep going. Every day I live with a drive in my heart.
Be Inspired with your hosts Bert Barron and Lisa Anderson Puleo. Directed by Rod Weber. Created and produced by Michael R. Doyle. Co-producers Bert Barron, Lisa Anderson Puleo, Rebecca Gruber, and Erwin Sternberg. Executive producers Rod Weber and Sean M. Sternberg. Editor Rebecca Gruber. Filmed at New Beginnings Foundation, Wall Township, New Jersey. Season 5 of Be Inspired is dedicated to the memory of Golden Boy Michael Cammett. Michael was a rising star in the world of professional wrestling who died in a tragic accident this past summer. His memory and legacy live on in the lives he touched, and he will always be remembered by family, friends, and fans.